Welcome to The Hustle with your host, myself, Ben Anderson, coming live on location in Irvine, California today with a really good friend, Brendan Maun. Welcome, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We've had so many people on this podcast, who the hell would think 2 years later we're still doing podcasts, right? But these ones are kind of cool because when you meet someone that's in your industry that understands you, you can kind of let the guard down and just kind of let it flow. So we're going to kind of let it rip today and just go over things that are including family, how do you balance work, life, what's it like for a loan officer, what are your highest highs, what are your lowest lows. Let's get to know Brendan Maun today in a whole new level and also get to know the industry behind the scenes in a whole new way. So first, we're sitting here in the middle of a pandemic, we're being safe in how we're doing podcasts, but how is your life different today than it was 6 months ago?
From 6 months ago, it's definitely it's a lot different. There's been a lot of adjustments, especially in the beginning of this whole thing. We didn't know what was going to happen, or how the government was going to react, right, or in terms of all the shutdown. And so I would say that today, things are. I believe there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I think things are getting better, but obviously a couple months ago, we were all sheltered in place.
It's pretty scary, and maybe people don't maybe understand how scary our market got real quick because we thought, wait a minute, is real estate going to shut down? Are they going to not be able to go in homes and see properties? Are buyers going to be shut out of homes? Are people not going to pay their rent, and are they going to screw over all these landlords and tenants? Are rates going to go up so high that no one can afford to get a mortgage? Are appraisers going to not be let in homes so they can't get values on homes? Are lenders going to shut down so you can't do lending? So our market, if you were around back in the previous recession, you went to that dark place and you thought, wait a minute, are we back there? Is everything gone? So talk about your emotional roller coaster in that time.
Yeah, us specifically, our company, we definitely had an emotional roller coaster back in March. I remember it was, I call it a Mexican standoff. There was all the investors and lenders were sitting there saying, hey, we're not going to buy any loans or fund any loans. I had a warehouse bank that was telling me, hey, Brendan, we're not going to fund any of these loans you have in your pipeline. We had clients that we're trying to deal with. We had loan officers. I'm having to break bad news to them. And, that was a dark, dark time. It was really scary. I had no idea what was going to go on. I had a lot of loans that we funded on our warehouse with our warehouse bank. Our investors weren't buying them. The warehouse bank was saying, hey, get these off the line. I'm sitting there telling them, hey, there's nothing I can do. That went on for 3 weeks, and I thought the world was literally going to end, the mortgage world. And I remember one of my reps over at one of the banks said, I know exactly how this story ends. This is just like 2008. So fortunately, I felt like we just got right out of that. We shot out of it. Rates dropped. The floodgates open. Things are great today. It's a good time to be a loan officer.
And as a CEO of TMG Home Loans, you're responsible for your own family. You're responsible for your employees. So talk about, let's kind of rewind the clock. How do you manage effectively to do the things you do, manage your family, manage the business? What's it like being a CEO of a mortgage company?
I would say I have an unorthodox background where I wasn't in the mortgage business, back during the 2006, 7, and 8. I have a little bit different story where I worked for Fortune 500 companies. I worked in the staffing business, and then I got involved in a startup company with a good friend of mine. And I started off as a realtor, and then I became a loan officer because I always figured that it seemed to me that the loan officers are having all the fun. And in terms of, how I balance...
Why is that for a second? Why do you think LOs have so much fun?
I'll tell you a story. It's a story that I tell everybody that I'm talking to when I'm hiring people. I remember that when I was a full-time realtor, I was working for Keller Williams, was doing pretty well. I sold a house, and then 2 years later, the client calls me. They said, hey, Brendan, we want to sell our house and buy a new house. And I get all excited. And so I pull title, and I look at title, and I see the purchase loan on there from the loan officer that I referred them to. And then 6 months later, I see another loan on there. And then maybe like a year later from that, I see another loan on there. And then I have the conversation with the client, and I said, hey, it looks like you refinanced a couple of times with, the loan officer that I referred you to. And they, oh yeah, Brendan, he was great. 6 months later, he called us and he lowered our rate. And a year later, he called us and then he did a cash out refinance. We paid off some credit cards and did some home improvements. And, we're really lucky that you referred that guy to us. And so that's kind of when a bell went off in my head. And I said, you know what, I'm on the wrong side of this business. There's nothing wrong with being a realtor, but I realized that I look at it from a standpoint of a CEO and how can I scale a business?
Yes.
And being a loan officer, you can scale this business.
And the thing is, there's so many glorified television shows and reality shows about property and selling real estate because it's an asset, it's the view, it's the camera, it's the beautiful person, and it's the deal, and it's the potential. I love how on these real estate shows they say potential commission $230,000. But they don't tell you that potential commission of $230 really is only if it closes. You got to back out your $50,000 in marketing cost to get the $230. You got to then split it with the broker, and then if the client haggles you, maybe you're walking away with $100, and that's after maybe you lost 3 other listings where you didn't sell the property. And so there's a lot that goes into selling a home, and you only can sell homes where you can actually go sell a home. You have to go sit in the property and hold the house open and meet buyers there and sellers there. That's kind of ball and chain. But there's no real sexy shows about real estate and mortgage. So I love how you said how loan officers have a lot of fun, because you could sit in what's more fun than sitting home in your pajamas with your coffee and your kids in the background, and you just doing deal after deal after deal without worrying about getting out there and having to meet people. And in this new world of Zoom and sitting home and using technology, it's unlimited. You can be licensed in multiple states. You can make millions of dollars without having to go shell out big marketing costs for homes. So you realized that, and then you made a change. And how long have you been a loan officer now?
So it's funny. I founded the company in 2013. I remember I got my broker's license, and then I went and got my NMLS. I was still working for Keller Williams, and I walked into the office of the they call it the CEO of the Pacific branch, and really good guy. And I talked to him. I said, "Hey, listen, I got my broker's license, and I'm going to go into the mortgage business." And that's that. And I remember he said, Brendan, you just hit like your top tier. Like they have these levels at Keller Williams specifically, where if you hit like a certain number, then you hit like a top tier. He's like, you just hit your top tier, and I'm like, I know, but this is what I want to do. And I literally went off on my own. I started the company with a childhood friend of mine, because my background was I had a background in operations. He had a background in mortgage, and it's kind of like that song, it's like, you got the brains, I got the looks, let's make lots of money. And that was the deal. So we started it then, and I knew nothing. Like I barely knew how to do a loan application. He knew a lot about that, taught me a lot. He taught me a lot about mortgage. I taught him a lot about running a business. And today, fast forward, we have about 7 loan officers. We're still a boutique brokerage, but I basically started it and built it to where it is today.
That's a for real fast forward. So 5-6 years. So if you're listening to this and you're not in lending, you could get in lending in 30 days. You could become licensed in 30 days. And then 5-6 years from now, you can be a success story like Brendan is, where you have your own company, you're funding your own loans as a lender, and you're banking your own loans, hiring people, and it's insane, the earning capacity. So what would you say, like, how would you compare earning, let's talk money, let's just put it on the table.
Yeah.
As a real estate agent, if you're a great real estate agent, and you don't have to say this was you or wasn't you, but as a great real estate agent, what do you think you make as a month or as a year?
I would say like a top producing real estate agent in, let's say, like a normal market where your average home sale maybe is like $500,000. I would say that you can probably make between anywhere from $75,000 to $150,000. But the challenge is that you don't know where your next paycheck's coming from. That's always the problem with being a real. Right. To me, that was always the problem with being a real estate agent, is that you close a deal and you're only as good as your last deal.
And someone has to want to buy or sell. You can't make money any other way.
Yeah.
And so the good ones make 75 to 150. What are the best ones making? What are like the one percenters or the leaders at a Keller making?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the top producers probably around this market in Orange County. I mean, they're probably doing $1 million plus. There's a handful of guys and gals that are doing really well in this market. They're selling big ticket homes. But like you said, I mean, those houses sit on the market for a long time. You got to spend $50,000 in marketing costs. They're putting a lot on the line. But I would say they're probably doing anywhere between $1 million plus.
And I could probably in our sphere, in our local market, Orange County, I could probably point to a couple dozen, 20 loan officers that are probably making over $1 million a year, not having to get out of their shorts or their sweatpants sometimes and doing it from home. So that's why you found that it was more fun to be on the lending side.
Yeah.
Because you could scale and you could make more money.
I mean, right away. I mean, it was a no-brainer. I look at it like this. A homeowner. I remember being a real estate agent, and I would go to like a social gathering, like a party, with our friends, and I'd say, yeah, I'm a realtor, and they'd always say, oh, that's great. My cousin's a realtor. My mom's a realtor. My stepbrother's a realtor. Whatever, right? And I just kind of remember, anecdotally, like that was like the reaction that you get as a realtor, but when you tell people you're a loan officer, I look at it this way. People are reminded of their mortgage payment every single month. I mean, every month they get a bill in the mail.
It's a good point.
And they look at it, and they're reminded of it. So you tell people you're a loan officer. If you're just socializing at a party, I mean, right now we're, socializing over Zoom. But if you're at a party and you're chatting with people and you tell them what you do as a loan officer, right away, oh, really? What are rates like right now? Like, oh, how's the mortgage market? Oh, I didn't realize that right now rates are, I'm telling people rates are below 3% on a 30-year fix. It's like they've been living under a rock. They have no clue,
right.
So that person's sitting at a 3.5%. You're all of a sudden telling them, yeah, I can get you down to 2.875, and there's probably not going to be zero to no closing cost, and those conversations, it's easy to have, and then obviously you can scale that on the phone, and
talk about the intimacy. Let's get intimate for a minute, you and I, and let's talk about a realtor. You're showing properties, you're getting to meet someone, and some might say, well, I don't get the same intimacy as a loan officer as I get as a realtor, because as a realtor I'm actually traveling with them in the car, we're having lunch. But as a loan officer, how would you compare? Because you are dealing with 75 personal things on them, and you have their birthday and their social and their tax returns and their bank statements, and how old their kids are. And so how is the two compare?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, like, when you're a realtor, the intimacy that you talk about is a lot of it comes from the 1003. It comes from the loan application, and you learn all about your client with that application. As a realtor, you get to know your clients, but you're really handing them off to this loan officer who knows. They got 2 kids, and they're 12 and 8, and they have a wife, and this is their second home. And then you look at their finances, and you understand things about them. I think there's so many things that we can do as loan officers that can better people's lives, whether it's putting them into a lower payment and rate, whether it's consolidating, certain debts they have, whether it's finding out, hey, listen, we want to go buy a second home, or we want to start a business. So, I mean, I think that you're absolutely right. I mean, that's the intimacy that we come across talking to these clients,
right.
Learning about them. As a realtor, at least for me as a realtor, it was, you get the client and you refer them off to the LO, and then you help them get the deal. And that's an exciting time in their life, and you're part of that, and that's important. But I agree, though. I mean, I know so much more about my clients these days as a loan officer than I ever did as a realtor.
And kind of walk me through the life of a loan officer. It may sound like it's boring and behind a desk, but you're also able to have a lot of your time not spent on the weekend, not at open houses, not driving around Sunday morning and showing properties. You're able to have more of your own life, because most consumers don't bug loan officers or think that they need to be accessible always on the weekend, because they know that banks are typically not open. So they kind of give you a pass of get back to me Monday. So being a family man, How do you look at the career life balance of a realtor? What's the life balance like as a realtor? What did you have it like before? And what's your current work-life balance now as a loan officer?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, since I've done both, as a realtor, you're always on. You're expected to work weekends. You're expected to show homes. And, I just remember that I got burned out doing that. I remember sitting on an open house in Whittier. I grew up in Whittier, California, and I'm sitting in this open house, and it's like August, and it's like 105 degrees outside. It's really humid, and I'm dressed for success. And sitting in this open house, meeting
suited
people,
and booted,
suited and booted,
sweating.
and I'm sweating, and I just remember sitting there. And, my wife's texting me, and, I think she was pregnant with her first daughter, and, she's not feeling well. I'm gone. I'm like an hour away doing this thing. So, I think for me, like, that was kind of part of the transition was like, man, I don't want to do this. This isn't me. I think I'm wired to be a 9-to-5 type guy. And again, as loan officers right now, especially, I'm telling everybody we're 7 to 11:59 p.m.
Right.
But I would say that the difference is that, you have more control of your time. We can create our destiny in this business. We're not always at the beck and call of the clients. You've taught me a lot about time management and what I do in certain hours of the day. And, the biggest thing that I got from you that's completely changed my life was the concept that I get to hang out with my family and see my family. I have an office down in San Juan Capistrano. That's our headquarters. We have a branch in Costa Mesa. I live in San Juan Capistrano. It's a great city, a great town.
Great town.
And I got that office because I wanted to be closer to home. And, my daughter, like, they'll have swim lessons and tennis lessons. And
so cool.
I can just step out. Like, hey, I'm going to step out at 3 o'clock and go to their lesson and watch them do that. And I'm going to shoot right back to the office and maybe follow up some calls and emails. And
I love it.
So, I think that's the beauty of for us, in terms of being a loan officer versus when I used to be a realtor.
Yeah, and I've got to give you credit. You've really found a lot of balance. And we've been just talking, as friends for like about a couple months here. And you've been open up to me about some of the stuff you're going through and some of the things that I've learned because I've done this for 17 years. So I'm able to pass some of that down to you from the hard lessons about mismanaging your time. And now you get to have these Todd Hamilton days.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Why don't you, I'm going to call you out for a minute. Why don't you talk about your Todd Hamilton story?
That's funny. So, okay. I remember one time we're chatting and it's like, I don't know what it was. It's like for the first time in a long time, I get home. I don't know. I have various things going on. I play tennis 3 days a week, and I play in the afternoon from like 5:30 to 7, and I play golf and do other stuff like that. So, but I get home 7:30, and that's right when my kids are getting put down to bed. They're going to bed and doing story time and this and that. I say goodnight to them. God bless my wife. She's a full-time mom, and I think that's the hardest job on the planet. Yep. But she takes care of that. I get home, and she and I sit down and have dinner together, and then we'll log on. We'll talk about the day, this and that, and then we'll log on to Netflix. And it's like, what I've gained from your coaching is I've gotten my time back. I've gotten my life back. I don't sit there. I used to come home and stress about my company and my business and my day and what was going on, and have the laptop open and tell my wife I can't deal with, I can't do anything right now. I got to work on this. And the other night it's like, we're flipping through Netflix or Amazon or one of them, and we come across that Todd Hamilton movie, or I can't remember the name, like
Win a Date or something.
Win a Date with Todd Hamilton, yeah. So we come across this movie, and it's like the most campy, like, romantic comedy, and my wife wants to watch it. And I'm like, fine, let's just watch it. So like we sit there and watch it, but I remember watching it for the first time, and it sounds really, really corny, but I remember sitting there and just being present and just watching this movie with my wife because she wanted to watch the movie. And we sat there watching the movie. We sat there, talking about the movie and whatever it was. And she turns to me and she's like, man, it's so good. Like, you're present. You're here. Like, I love it. And I told her, I'm like, you know what? We have Ben Anderson to thank for that. Like, we honestly do. I'm sincere in that. So, that's the thing. So we call it the Todd Hamilton event.
I love it. I love that story too. And it's like, I didn't do that much, but just talk to you a couple times and say, hey, make these couple of tweaks that it took me a decade to figure out how to be around your kids and your wife and have a good life. And it's like, just time block your priorities, do the things that are going to make you money, and you're going to have a much better balance of life. So I'll even look at like the fact that we think that we have to work all the time to make the most amount of money, but look at this month, you're going to do like $13 million. So for those of you that can't do the math on the calculator, that's like, several $100,000 in earnings.
Yep.
And that's with being present for your wife. So that's why this job is so great, is you got to go play tennis in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. You couldn't do that if a client wanted to do a showing. You do a showing, like, I can't play tennis today. And then you're grumpy because you didn't play tennis.
Yep.
So now you got to play tennis. You can always call your clients back on a mortgage because they understand that you're doing 35,000 things. Mm-hmm. And you can play tennis. You can take the kids down to the pony stables and see the kids. And you can be around Todd Hamilton. And you can focus on growing your business and growing your brand and making yourself a top producer. You have all the tools. You have all the ability to talk and manage a company. It's just a couple of different things we were talking. I'm like, look, if you just do these couple things, you're going to have a lot more balance.
Yep.
So talk about kind of your outlook on the market, what you're looking forward to, and maybe how you look at your clients right now and how you feel like that client for life is needing you.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now that we're the market is the best it's ever been, as long as I've been aware or known about mortgage. I mean, it's nobody thought we'd be seeing interest rates below 3%. They're talking about doing 15-year fixed now below 2%. I'm talking to all my people, all my LOs, everyone's tired. Like, everyone's overworked. The processors are overworked. Thank God we have really good processors, but they're tired. But I just tell everybody, listen, guys, gals, now's the time. Like, this is the time to hit while the iron's hot. The market is really, really good. And the complaints that you have today about working too much, they're going to change to like, oh my gosh, what happened to my production and my pipeline? So, depending on what's going to happen through the elections and depending what's going to happen with the pandemic and depending what's going to happen with the overall market, my guess is things will probably stay steady where they are right now. I don't know. Maybe they'll go lower. Who knows? There's a lot of lenders buying this market. What I mean by that is lenders are just dropping their rates so they can capture the client and capture the servicing business. And so I think that's going to continue throughout the rest of the year. And then as far as what I'm projecting to my team is just we got to stay sharp and stay on it, stay in front of the client. Every single deal we do, we try to benefit the client. That's obviously, like, we're all held to that standard, but I really believe that every single time I do a deal, I'm benefiting the client and making sure whether it's going to help them pay the loan off sooner, whether it's going to help them save a ton of money in interest on the back end, whether it's going to consolidate. We call it bad debt. We always swap the bad debt for good debt, right? And so those are the types of things that we look at, and that's how we're operating. That's how I tell my LOs to do it. And I've got some really great LOs, and I'm blessed in that regard, and a really great staff and processing team. So I don't know. That's what we're doing. We're making sure that every single deal we do benefits the client.
So I'm a client now. I'm like, well, this guy's got it all. He's got a company he runs. He calls the shots. He's got a family he takes care of. He plays tennis, so that's always a good thing to learn about people. How does a client follow you? How does a borrower work with TMG?
In terms of, I guess, what we do is we do a lot of marketing. We do a lot of direct mail marketing in terms of getting new business. I've been blessed to have a really good referral source, from certain people in the financial advisory industry and CPAs and things like that. I'm on social media. I'm on there. Your company has done a lot. Your marketing team has done a lot in terms of starting to put things on Instagram and things like that. And I've already noticed a big difference in that regard in terms of just people. Because I think before it was like I was just posting like a picture of like the family and
right.
But, you guys are now posting things for us, which is nice. I don't have to lift a finger.
That's great.
And that's getting in front of a lot of people. I love social media. Like I believe that I don't even know what I've even spent on ad spend. I don't really think it's anything. My whole theory on social media is that I've essentially gotten a billion percent ROI, because all I've done is just I post. I let people know. It's like it's not that you're being obnoxious and just shoving, mortgage down people's throats, but it's more of just, hey, listen, like this is what I do, and I'm here.
I love that.
And if they know that, I got a Facebook message from a friend of mine, from Whittier. He sends me a Facebook message. It's Sunday morning. I'm just having breakfast in our house with the family, and he pings me and he's like, "Hey man, I'm looking for cash out refi options, and can you help me?" I've never done any loans with this guy, but we've always been friends, and
right.
and he just reaches out, just because I'm making sure that at least my audience and people knows
what you do.
They know what I do.
That's so cool. A lot of people don't put what they do out there, and it's like you're getting so many good tips right now. If you sit there and go after what you want, if you talk about what you do proudly, and if you treat the client with the courtesy to help them, and then treat them like the client for life, so you can have more dates with your wife, because the more you build your network, the more you put out content and people can see you, the more Sunday morning calls you get from your friend. That it's like, that's a layup of a deal. Mm-hmm. I'll help this guy easily.
Yep.
That's what you love about mortgages. You can just pop that deal in. Yeah.
And cash out refi, funded his loan today. He's
how much time of yours, start to finish, of your on the clock of Brendan Maun's time was spent closing that deal?
I would say the response on the Facebook message will help you out. Hey, first step, send me your mortgage statement. Let me take a look. Run numbers on a fee worksheet. Give it to the client.
But how much time did you spend from the time that text came in? Maybe it was 5 minutes on Sunday saying, "Yeah, let's talk."
An hour.
Maybe an hour, right?
Yeah, 45 minutes.
To close a deal and make a healthy commission off of one deal. That's why mortgage is great. Is if you have the systems in place and you are putting yourself out there, people come to you, and you're spending an hour to get the deal closed, and you have a team that does all the paperwork.
Yep.
So that's why I know that the way you're building is you're going to be one of the top producers in this country, because you understand that. You have the business mind, understand.
Appreciate that.
If I spend my time originating and I get a team behind me, I could have more dates with my wife. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, it's I like what you've done in terms of you get a mentor, and it's like listen, you have a business, right? And I'm paying your business happily, right? Because it's funny, like you come in and like you said, you make a couple of tweaks, and I've made a couple of tweaks to like what I do, and it's completely 10x my production in a matter of overnight. I mean, I think since our first initial phone call, right. I did like 20 applications in like a week and a half or something. That's like that. Great, man. Just because I stopped what I was doing and I started doing something else. And the one thing about this business that you're teaching is that we need to build a book of production. It's clients for life. Yes. You build the database, you work the database.
Yes.
And I grew up, and I'm sure you did. We all grew up watching, the wealth manager. They get the clients, right, yes. And they have them for life. And the insurance broker, and they get the clients in the book of business and have them for life. And whatever it is, CPA, the doctor, the dentist.
Great point.
They have the clients for life. But when we get into mortgage, it's like we're not taught that. It's just, hey, get the application and close the deal, and then go find the next application and close that deal, and then keep finding more applications and close the deal. Where you're kind of like, well, no, we should be treating this like the insurance broker,
that's right.
Like the wealth manager,
that's right.
And building this database, nurturing these clients, and that's, like you said, I mean, that's going to feed you for the rest of your life.
That's a mega light bulb right there. So if you're in mortgage, if you're in any industry, what Brendan said is absolutely like honor roll, home run stuff. You have to treat the client like you're their client for life. And if you do that, you have their information, they're going to come back to you. And you won't be able to cash the checks fast enough, because it doesn't matter if rates go up in your business, because you're going to take care of the client for life. Because like we said, they're going to have death, they're going to have diapers, they're going to have divorce, they're going to be upsizing, downsizing, getting into debt, they're going to be starting businesses, moving into relocating to a company, move them over across the country. And if you're in lending, you can do all their loans all the time. And then guess what? Very few people have only one person that they know that owns a home. So Johnny Rocket, his sister and a brother that need to buy a home, his parents need to be put into a mortgage, his other cousins. If you start just asking for the business, you're going to get a hell of a lot of it. So as we kind of wrap this up, we are just having fun talking loan officer talk. Those that aren't in this space should get into it. look at this man, 5-6 years ago, was not in lending, now he owns a company and cashing 6-figure checks on a given month, and paying your bills and having dates with your wife and playing tennis. So it's a pretty damn good balance of work, life, and family. So any parting shots, any advice to someone, give 2 pieces of advice. Someone not in mortgage that should get a mortgage, and someone in mortgage to replicate what you're doing.
I mean, I would say the person that's interested, and I talk to those people all the time. You know, they walk up, hey, you know, I talk to, you know, it's people like in the service industry that I come across, or somebody that's having a career change. I mean, obviously, number one, right away, go get your licensing. Like, that's the deal. Like, go get the licensing, start that process, because it kind of takes some time. And then the person that's, you know, has their licensing, let's say, and they're starting day one. I mean, I call it KISS, right? You know, keep it simple, stupid. I mean, that's it. It's and having you as a mentor, it's important. Like the good thing about mentors is that they're going to tell you everything not to do.
Right.
Okay, they're going to tell you what to do, and then they're going to tell you how to do it.
Love that.
And that's what you do. I mean, you lay out that roadmap. So
thank you.
I would say that the person that's starting in the business, it's funny. Like, I would tell them to do what you told me to do a couple of months ago, which is, hey, you know, scrap your CRM and get this like spreadsheet. Yep. And just start adding your clients' names and addresses and phone numbers and emails and this and that, and just get them in front of you. And that's exactly what I did. Because, you know, I played sports growing up. You played sports growing up. Yep. I love being coached. Yep. I consider myself coachable.
That's
Someone
great.
tells you to do something, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
That's what I'll tell them to do. You know, just day one. I mean, guys, gals, get your database, get a spreadsheet, start filling up the names, and just start calling people. That's especially great. Now. I mean, right now it's a no-brainer. I mean, odds are they're sitting at an interest rate above 3%. Call them now.
Call them now.
And do that. So
take action.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so dang proud of what you've been doing, and you're doing all the things right now to make your business recession-proof and provide for your family and take care of your company. So it's like the Triple Crown.
Yep.
And I hope you get to all the levels of success. And I'm here to help you along the way. And we'll be playing golf. Yeah. When this country opens up again, we'll be doing fun stuff. And like you said, being a loan officer is just a lot of stinking fun. So thanks for making time in your busy 2% rate, 6-figure check cashing schedule. You're making so much money, but making so many people pretty happy. So thanks for joining us. And thanks how can people follow you on social media?
TMG Home Loans is our Facebook page, tmghomeloans.com, and Brendan Maun, BrendanMaun. You know, I would say follow us on Instagram, and we're going to be building that out. And,
so you're making a giant mistake if you don't stop what you're doing, pause this podcast, and follow Brendan's TMG as well as his personal account, because you will see how he grows. And when he is verified by Instagram a year from now as the only one of his name, you'll wish you would have got him back then, because I guarantee he's the kind of guy that if you ask him a question, he'll answer you. DM him if you're a homeowner. If you have a rate over 3% and you want to get a mortgage, DM him. He'll DM you back and help you personally himself. If you are a loan officer and want a good guy to manage you and help you get your business right, DM him. He'll DM you back. And if you're someone that just wants advice on how to have family life balance, DM him and he'll DM you back. So thanks for making time for this podcast and our busy COVID schedule. And I know we're doing a lot more of this together. And let's go crush it.
Let's do it.
All right, man.